Hello and welcome all this Wednesday morning to the second edition of what is Hindustan Times' Environment Conclave. Now, the theme for this year's conclave is a new growth paradigm for India post COVID 19. And over the course of the next 2 days, we are going to have key newsmakers, key stakeholders in this sector to talk about how India is going to go about on the roadmap for a cleaner, greener future. Now, the person who is kind of making the agenda for India and who will tell us how India is going to achieve all its goals that have been set out by the Prime Minister, by the country, especially in COP26 last year. It was, of course, someone who has taken over the Environment Ministry not too long ago. We are very happy to have with us Union Environment Minister Bhupender Yadav. Just to tell all those joining in and who may not know, Mr. Bhupender Yadav is not just handling the very key portfolio of environment, but also of labor. And he also happens to be in charge of one of the key states for the ruling party, that is Manipur. So, or in between all of these various hats that he puts on, we are very happy that he's taken time out to be part of Hindustan Times' Environment Conclave, because very soon afterwards, he is going to be working on the election campaign as well, because Manipur is polling on the 28th of this month. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to the Honorable Minister to hear from him in this keynote address. Thank you so much, sir, and it's over to you.
Thank you, Sunetra. Ladies and gentlemen, greeting and namaste. Dear member of the August gathering, let me begin by thanking Hindustan Times Group for inviting me to this event and extending the opportunity to speak on a theme which is extremely relevant in the contemporary times. The theme, a new growth paradigm for India, designing an environment, social, and governance model for the post COVID 19 economy. As we enter the Amrit Kal of India's independence, the country under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji is marching toward the goal of an advanced, inclusive, and sustainable economy. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas remains our vision. No Indian should be left behind in the development and growth that our people are aspiring for, and that is their right. To this vision, the Honorable Prime Minister has added a creative new dimension of life or lifestyle for environment. This is a vision of development that is based on mindful and deliberate utilization and not mindless and destructive consumption, a vision of sustainable production and consumption. This is a vision not only for India, but for the entire world. To realize this vision, we need a global movement that is, our Prime Minister says, 3PPP, that means pro, planet, people. India's own path of realizing this vision is of the Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliant India that the Pradhan Mantri gave even as we fought the pandemic. The pandemic has interrupted growth and development across the entire world. Atmanirbhar Bharat is not only a path of recovery from the COVID 19 pandemic and its aftermath, but a path of progressing toward our goals of inclusive and pro people and pro nature development. It is with this vision and along with the path that India is also meeting the challenge of global warming. Under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, India has emerged as a responsible global voice on the subject. Equity and climate justice is India's first priority. This is the foundation for sustainable world. Global warming is a global collective action problem and not a problem of one country. India is clear that we cannot meet the challenge of combating climate change without equity and climate justice. At COP21 held in Paris in 2015, India ensured the principle of equity and climate justice become part of the Paris Agreement. India's national budget of 22-23 stand as a testimony to our resolve the face of challenge of climate change while continuing our development journey. The finance minister's budget declaration that energy transition and climate action will be one of the pillars of the development and growth agenda validate our determination. The budget lays out a series of deliberate steps toward the realization of its low carbon development strategy, including a number of near-term and long-term actions. In doing so, the budget has also aligned low carbon development of India's commitment to the goal of a self-reliant India. Mindful of the limited flow of the means of implementation technology as well as finance from the developed world, the Government of India has prioritized allocation of significant domestic financial resources for developing indigenous capacities for energy transition and climate action. We are working to mainstream biodiversity conservation in all sectors of economic development. India's forests are teeming with the wildlife, and our forest and mangrove cover are on ascendance. We are also working to imbibe and practice development with design, particularly in the infrastructure sector, so that in all the highways, expressways, rail, and transmission line network we build, environment concerns are duly integrated. Providing energy for our people and our development is a priority, and for this, we need equitable access to the global carbon budget. Climate justice means that all countries must restrict themselves to their fair share of the global carbon budget and use it responsibly. In this respect, India is walking the talk on climate change mitigation and adaptation. Carbon budget is a strategic national resource for India. India's sustainable development trajectory is governed by the country's ambitious plan of transitioning to renewable energy, including green hydrogen, energy efficiency measures, sustainable transport, forest and biodiversity conservation, and promotion of sustainable lifestyles. In this direction, our climate change action are guided by the framework of national action on climate change with sectorial missions covering key priority sectors of the economy. These include renewable energy, energy efficiency, agriculture, urban habitat, Himalayan ecosystem, water, and forests. To drive the wide range of proposed initiatives, the government has announced that it would be issuing sovereign green bonds in the budget. The welfare scheme of the current government further validate the BJP government's commitment to sustainable development. The Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana has benefited 90 million households with LPG connections. The scheme has immensely helped in providing rural households with clean cooking fuel and a healthy environment. More than 360 million LED bulbs have been distributed under the Ujala scheme, which has led to energy saving of more than 47 billion units of electricity as per year and reduction of 38.6 million tons of CO2 per year. India, however, still need coal to meet its energy requirement. We will use it responsibly, phasing out old plants and moving to technologies like supercritical and ultra supercritical thermal power plants. There are also new initiatives like coal gasification and chemical industry based on coal that have announced in the budget. Apart from the resolutely addressing climate change domestically for the world, India has created and will continue to nurture international solar alliance and coalition for disaster resilience infrastructure. We are also taking the lead with Sweden in innovation for hard to abate sectors with a view to promoting voluntary action for a low carbon transition. At COP26, the Honorable Prime Minister launched the One Sun, One World, and One Grid and infrastructure for resilient island states initiative with our partner countries to accelerate creation of green grids for transfer of renewable power and capacity building support to small island countries. India's announcement of net zero is a major step considering our country is not the cause of climate change but has not been a historical contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. We have contributed only about 4% of the global cumulative emission from 1850 to 2019, despite being home of around 17% of humanity. Our per capita emission are third of the world average. So India is not a part of the problem of climate change, but wants to be part of the solution in addressing it. India's journey toward net zero requires the active participation of all stakeholders. Sustainable lifestyle and climate justice are the principle at the core of this journey. This is the principle that we need to remember, and I would like to use this opportunity to reiterate the same. I would like to conclude by reassuring you that the 21st century belongs to India with inclusive growth and development for one and all. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.